Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueCon Weekly. Joining us this week is Greg Plum, channel strategist at Partnernomics. Thank you for joining us today.
Luca, good to be here.
And when we discussed what we could talk about today, a topic that's very dear to my heart came up, which is the role of AI in the job market, and which jobs are going to go away, how jobs are going to change. And that's very, very close to me because as someone working in the industry and who has to do with AI, Signal has their own AI product, and I work on it as part of the team. I get to have the same conversation about twice a week with relatives and friends, which is, hey, so are our old jobs going away? What's happening? So thank you for suggesting that, Brad. So what's your take there?
No, jobs are not going away. Jobs are changing. They're evolving. To me, they're kind of moving upstream. So things that were historically repetitive and less arduous, I guess, and less strategic, they can be handled by, robotics, artificial intelligence, technology. Um, I think the thing is, and I hear it a lot, Luke. I teach just an intro. I'm not. Let me just first say I am not an expert on AI. And anybody that knows me, they're going to say, "Greg, you better call yourself out as a novice," because I am a novice, but I'm an enthusiast. And I've been so for about 5 years now. So it's kind of early. I mean, I think it's been a while, and we've seen incredible changes recently. But no, I don't feel like AI is coming for your job. I think that people who use AI are.
That's a good that's a good take, and I think it is a good starting point. We've been exploring that in various ways, but first of all, well, I'll ask you first. Like, what do you think that means? Is it that experts are going to need less help, be more productive? What exactly do you think that means?
I think it means, I heard this quote a while back and it resonated with me. It said, if you're good at your job, AI is going to make you better. If you're not so good at your job, it's going to make you obsolete. And I think that's pretty spot on because really all levels um, can benefit from this because I really look at these tools. Let's use ChatGPT, for example. I look at it as really a research assistant. And what you get from that is not the end game, but it's really your starting point. Use it to set your framework. If you're looking to put together a presentation or a strategy, I'm working with a company right now. We worked on literally use ChatGPT. Oh, and by the way, Luca, I'm sure you know this. When ChatGPT hit the market,
Mm,
you remember?
it's almost 2 years at this point.
It's exactly 2 years. It was no, I don't remember the exact date, but it was November 2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it not amazing at how it is everywhere? It's infiltrated every other technology. Other technologies are looking how to bolt on Gen AI onto their existing tools to make them more powerful. That to me is fascinating. But I was one of my clients. We're working on a global strategy. It's a sustainability company, and the question was, okay, well, where should we be focusing? Which segment, which roles within the company, which geo, which size company? I think I said that right. So there's a lot of questions. We use ChatGPT to help, and not just ChatGPT, Perplexity. I don't know if you have you heard of Perplexity. That's
Oh
another
yeah,
one.
I use that
Love
all the
it,
time.
love it. And I like using them in tandem. It's like almost a check, but it's not your ultimate check. The ultimate check is done by humans. That's why AI is an augmentation of what we're doing and not a replacement for what we're doing.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I can bring some somewhat experience, and maybe we can go into this. So, as a very senior engineer, I've lent my skills to sales and technical sales for the last few years, but I've done a lot of development in the telephony area, and I still build demos, so small applications, occasionally help side projects, whatever. And I've seen like I'm using Cursor, which is an editor, which is essentially Visual Studio Code with Claude, with Anthropic Claude
Mhm.
bolted on, so it can just help you while you work. And I feel like I've become much more productive because I know what I'm doing. So I exactly know what the end result should be, so I can get there much quicker. Question we've been discussing recently with other people in the industry is, how do we train juniors now? Because it used to be that you will, for example, you take a list of 20 things that need to go in a policy that is about secure software development, and have a junior person write that down. So go research each of those 20 topics and give me a couple paragraphs. That way, the person learns what they should be doing, what they should not be doing. Right now, I just gave that to GPT yesterday and then gave it a little rearrangement to make it read clearer. And it took me half an hour to write a 20-page policy. So, where do we go with the juniors? That's my big question.
Well, the fear that I have there, it's almost like, calculators used to not be allowed in schools, right? When we were going through math, they didn't want you having a calculator because they want you to understand the thought process, as opposed to hitting a few buttons. Because if you hit a wrong button, you're going to get a wrong answer. If you don't understand the thought process, the chance of mistakes are much higher. I don't know. I feel like the onus is still on the seniors, on us that are a little more experienced, that have been through, to teach the fundamentals, but then also teach them in tandem, show how these tools don't provide the answer. They provide guidance and assistance to get to the answer. The checks today, Luca, this may change, but right now, the ultimate checks of anything produced by AI is still a human. That right now has not been replaced. It should not be replaced. I hope it is never replaced, because that right there is one way that we can work in tandem with this technology and not be replaced by it. And we're still in that narrow in weak AI, right? Very specific of what's being done. We're not even approaching general AI, where it's almost thinking unto itself. We're not there yet. At least most people say, but there are some people that say the world's flat. So I'm sure there are some conspiracy theorists out there saying we are smack dab in the middle of general AI. But it really falls on us, and schools are doing, I think, a much better job than they were. They were saying cannot be used. ChatGPT, no, it's. But now, and I know it differs by school district, but some are starting to say, okay, it's welcome, but it has to be explicitly stated this was done with ChatGPT. It's honestly, it's kind of, you can start to tell if you look at it and you take just the output that comes from these tools. You can almost start to see patterns, and it starts to smell like it didn't have a human touch. So, I mean, I think the onus is on us to educate the fundamentals, as well as how these tools can help us accomplish our job. The wrong thing to do is put the head in the sand and say, it's not really going to impact my job, because it absolutely is.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. The idea is that it needs to be treated as a tool. The line where it have to toe is between it's really being a tool or it being a crutch, which you could argue is a special type of tool. So I don't know how to, but you got what I mean. Like the crutch in the English language sense, like is it covering for you? Like, do you know? I think a good metric I've tried to develop. So my wife is a psychologist. So specializes in teaching psychology and children's learning. And they've been using AI to develop some paths through to have children to learn. And she gave a formula I really like, which is did what the AI did. Is it something you could have done? Or is it something you completely will not have been able to do? That's a very good metric. Like you could have done with more time, more research, some help from Google and Perplexity, not something you know intimately. Like, but could have been something you could have gotten done in more time, then it's fine. If it's something you don't understand, like you have to take it for granted, you don't even know if what the AI made for you is correct or true, then you're doing it wrong. I think that's a very good metric, in my opinion.
It's a great way to measure. Yeah, I love that, because it's, if you understand and you could do it with unlimited resources, you have the capacity based on your experience to accomplish the job, but the tool is helping you do it more efficiently. Absolutely. I love that. That's a good way to kind of draw that line in the sand.
Yeah, and the other thing is that for all the children out there, there is no actual way to tell that things have been done with GPT, unless those are again that's clearly something you couldn't have done by yourself. Professors in university keep telling students that they have a way to detect GPT. It just is not there. So
Well, it's so funny. So this just happened last week. My son sent me his summary for LinkedIn. He said, "Hey, can you look at my summary and make sure it doesn't sound like ChatGPT?" So I thought, did you use ChatGPT, or is it? Did you just want to make sure that it, because they're cognizant, they know that. I don't know. I'm more dubious now when I read anything. Do you do that with a more critical eye? I mean, I find myself reading. I'm like, okay, was this, you know, written by a human, or was this written by GPT, or a combination? You can, like I said, I feel like you can almost start to smell it, but maybe I'm just being dubious. I'm not sure. Not dubious,
Yeah, it is.
scrutinizing more closely.
It's really hard to tell. Like, if you go, I think the measurement, if you look at things that are really professionally written, like I have a couple subscriptions that are outside of professional work, but really like having. One is Scientific American, and the other is the Stanford Business Review.
Okay.
And both of them are very, very interesting, and their articles are sort of complicated and very well written. So those will be harder to tell. Shorter, funnily enough, things like recipes or articles about sports, they're much easier to tell if a human wrote them or not. I don't even know. Like, as you said, I can't put my finger on it, but I know,
Right.
right? There's something there.
Yep.
It is. You're absolutely right.
It starts to smell just a certain way, and it's like, okay, that's something's not quite right. I'll tell you what was fascinating is I went in and plugged my name in and just to see what Gen AI, these tools would tell me about me. I did it maybe I don't know, 6 months ago. Was
Mhm.
not impressed. Very redundant. It was just very, very high level. But since then, I don't know what's happening with the algorithms. They're getting more complex, more accurate. I just did it recently, and I was actually, it was something that I almost, without too much tinkering, if somebody said, "Here, send me, can you provide a bio?" It's almost good enough for me to hand it over and say, "Here's my bio," and I didn't even write it. It was pretty impressive. So the tools have gotten way more sophisticated, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, the I think the other thing I think is I don't have a true way to gauge the impact in outside my industry, so writing and whatnot. Feels like it's almost having a bigger impact in the writing industry and entertainment. I've heard of, as much as we can say AI is not coming to take your job, which is true. People with AI are coming to take your job. I've heard of real layoffs in that world.
Well,
Then,
listen, the layoffs, Luca, are not just in that world. The layoffs are across the board right now.
yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, so, but can you say? And here's something I have asked, um, just spot checking, talking to people. Yes, you've deployed AI. Have you let go? Has anybody been terminated, let go because of AI? And the answer, I've never heard yet. The answer, yes, I've never heard that. People have been terminated or laid off or whatever based on funding. Look, PE is a major player in our space.
Mhm.
They come in with set goals and they have set time frames. If the goals are not hit within those time frames, something has to change. The one thing they have 100% control over is expense, the expense of workforce. That's why you had these reductions. So I don't think yet, just my opinion, this is not gospel from anyone, just I don't feel as though the technology has led to layoffs yet. Down the road, theoretically, it could. You could become so efficient you can start to cut. But I think that the reduction in force is more around expense management.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking the same thing the last few days. I was thinking, you know what? The entertainment industry is known for razor thin margins, super long hours, and in general, they're looking to for anything to save a few bucks because it's expensive to make shows. Like there's this arcane CGI show that's using Hollywood actors for voices that my daughters like very much, and I watched a few episodes on it. It's actually very good. And they told me one 40-minute episode costs $5 million to make. It's like $25, $25,000 a second of of resources. So
How do you get a
uh,
return on that? I mean, how do you cost justify that type of activity? I don't know.
yeah, movies cost in excess of 300 million now. It's just out of. So I
I
think
mean,
that's you're right.
talk about an industry that's been turned upside down, of late. I mean, everything is in that the entertainment space. It's amazing, and this has nothing to do with AI. It just has to do with evolution of where we are technology wise. Streaming, obviously has just become. I mean, I would argue I probably spend more time watching Netflix. I tell you what, Luca, when was the last time you went to a movie theater? I can't tell you. It's probably been 10 years since I've gone to a movie theater, if not more.
So it's a bit of a special occurrence, but we went to see Barbie last year because we were in New York City with the family, and it was like the premiere thing, and it was one of those events where you go wearing maybe pink shirt or whatever. People were in full costume and
Yep.
whatnot. That was it. But going to the theater for a movie, I don't even know. Like, you're probably right. Has to be one of the last Marvel movies before Endgame. I know I haven't seen Endgame, and it has to be something Infinity Wars or whatever. So it has to be what, 8 years before COVID for me.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, just see how technology has impacted everything that we do, the way we consume everything, music, movies, everything. It's just a whole different world, and it's just going to get more and more. The change is just coming at a breakneck pace. I mean, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on right now. But I'm just grateful to have a lens to be able to look at this with some kind of I don't know, limited knowledge, but just enough to know that it's important and it's impacting all of our jobs. And we have to be cognizant of that. It's the old Wayne Gretzky thing, you ask
Yeah.
him how he was so successful. It's because he skated where the puck was going. That's what we all have to be doing. And AI is a big part of that.
Yeah, it is, and I think for what it's worth, I like to see where the money goes, because it's always a good measure of. It's not a measure of everything, but we're talking about business, so it is in this
Yeah.
case. And what we're seeing in the call center is that through AI is mainly being deployed in two instances. One, when you're just talking to an AI agent, it is just quotes a better IVR, which is a great thing. Like, instead of pressing one, pressing two, it's better. You can just express what you need, and the IVR will find it for you. But it's not really replacing agents. What we're seeing is augmentation. You're still talking to a human, but the human, instead of the human having to, let's face it, we are in the call center business. Used to be that you copy and paste the sentences. They had a worksheet on the side where they just copy and paste or say whatever is on the flow chart at that moment. Now they're augmented to the point where a couple of our customers that using SignalWire infrastructure have this thing going on where you're an agent. I'm on the call with you. You work for a Delta, for an airline, and every time I say something, the form in front of you changes to what I probably want to do. To the point where if I'm asking you to change my flight from tomorrow to Friday, and instead of going through Atlanta, I'd like to go through Miami because I need to stop there. You will get a form that's perfectly filled out. You just have to confirm. So all the agent has to do is, well, oh, okay, Luca. So would you like to go to? You like to go to Miami, and you're flying out of there the following day, blah blah, and then you say okay, and it's done. The agent doesn't have to learn anything. That's how it's being used. So it's again augmented. The agent is using his personal skills to keep you happy and make it sound like it's human, give you the human touch, but doesn't have to learn how to operate 100 different airline control systems to change a flight. That
Right.
is what I'm seeing. I hope that's the direction, please.
Well, I mean, and the whole thing, people, the Gen AI, the tools that are being used right now to generate all this content, it is a closed box, right? It is not real time. So it's so funny. I did a test on this. So I teach just an intro course on AI to government agencies, and which there's an indicator right there. The fact that the government is investing in education of their people in generative AI. So they clearly look, and I always joke with them that government's not known for being necessarily very bleeding edge when it comes to technology or investment, but that's just an indicator of how important it is. But these tools are not they're still flawed, right? They hallucinate. We know that. And it's based on the data that's in the pool that it's pulling from, that these generative tools are pulling from. So there are always limitations, and the fact that there is a cutoff date, which fascinated me when I first learned it, because when you start using a search engine, there's no cutoff date. It's live. It's real time. But these tools have it's a finite pool of data. It's massive, but it's still finite. So if you go in and ask GPT, what who won the election, it does not yet know. It does not know who our president is. There's one, I think Perplexity might have speculated, I think it was, and Perplexity, and they're getting smart. They're also incorporating now search engines. So there's your pool of data, and now there's a search engine that rides alongside of it to give you the full picture. But in and of itself, these Gen AI tools are not up to date every to the minute, and that can be troubling. If you can't use it for real time work, if you're trying to find something that's happening right now, or even last year, sometimes it won't know. Just depends on when that data is updated.
And I'll give you another example on hallucinations. I have a friend who's been building a legal advice platform where they do various tasks related to contracts, the workflow for hiring someone, etc. And they almost immediately had to find a way to solve the fact that LLMs in general would just hallucinate laws if they didn't know about one. So if you ask the GPT about, hey, what law in Italy, what law relates to firing someone when they steal from the workplace, if it had been encountered in the training, you'd get back the right law, the right sentences, all of it. Otherwise, you literally make it up. Like it will tell you, oh, it's law number 24 from September 2001, and you go look it up, and the law pertains to maritime rights of a shipping company. Nothing to do with firing someone. It will literally make it up, and it gets worse with legal and medical. But in this case, I don't have no experience with medical, but in legal, can I fire this person? If you get the wrong answer, that's $1 million lawsuit. So it's not just, oh, sorry, actually found out we couldn't do this. If the LLM tells you, yeah, go ahead, that you fire this person, you initiate, then you get sued for $1 million. And that's sort of an expensive.
Yeah, and you can't say, well, ChatGPT told me it was okay. That's where I got
a lawyer would have been. They have their own insurance. Like if a lawyer told you it was okay to proceed, and then you get sued, they are the ones on the hook for the $1 million, because there's something signed. There's paper signed that says I certify that I said this.
Well, so you touched on something that's really around the risk associated with AI, right? And there's a lot of talk around that. There's a lot of fear, because what we do is we theoretically open the gates to our organizations. If you take something that is, now there are different types of AI, different types of security, but if you're taking something and loading it into ChatGPT, and it includes any kind of personal identification information or anything confidential or anything sensitive, you're opening the gate. And that's not something that's one of the big parts of the course. That's why the government is investing in this right now, the education, to show the risks associated with about responsible use of AI. It's like any tool, Luca. You take a really expensive, complex tool and put it in the hands of somebody. You make sure they have to be educated how to use that tool. Otherwise, they could be dangerous to themselves or others.
That has gotten a bit better, though, in the sense that it is sort of being managed correctly by OpenAI right now, and other suppliers are a bit better in that. Like, I think it's been a while since they've been using your questions for training, unless you're using the free versions, which clearly stated, which is it is fine. That's a totally different. Well, there's an ethics thing there, especially when it comes to art. All of the stable diffusion and image generating, because saying that generating text from previous text is stealing something is much harder, because it's just a sequence of words, while images are clearly derived from one another. You can easily ask stable diffusion to make you an illustration in the style of a famous artist, and you get exactly that. So there's an
And there's
ethics there.
copyright, is it infringing upon any copyright?
Well, look at
No.
what you can do in our field with voices. We don't do that because we don't need it. But one of the engines we use for text to speech has the ability to replicate someone's voice with like 5-10 minutes of speech. Like from this episode, I could make a voice for me and one for you that would be perfect. And I could just redub the entire episode and have us say slightly different things at key moments.
I mean, is that not scary? I mean, think about that. I mean, that's the whole deep fake fear as well, because it allows people to create something that never happened, and that to me is petrifying. I mean, people make enough stupid mistakes on their own. They don't need the help of AI to augment their ability to make stupid mistakes and make poor decisions.
How I feel on that, and that's another thing that again I thank my wife. She has a different set of skills. So they've been working on with the kids. Well, they're not really kids; they're 13 to 19 at school. Is treat almost everything as fake right now, especially images, especially it's teaching people to really be critical of something. Like, can you see the same thing? The analogy I got is something like, think about like a landmark. Like you can see a mountain from the side and it looks tall. Go check it out from another angle, see if it's still there, and go check it out from behind and see if it's still there, or if it's not, or if it's a house. It's like one of those Western movies
Right, with the
things where they
facade.
only at the front and there's nothing behind it. It's just a trailer behind it. And the go check if you can see the same news, the same image, the same from more than one source. It's probably true. If it's coming from only one side, be very wary of it. That's probably the only way right now.
Yeah, I mean that's I think your point of being cognizant and approaching things with a healthy dose of skepticism, you kind of have to right now with the tools that are out. You can't help it. That's the only responsible way to proceed. And you can't, we always said, well, if it's on the internet, it's true. You can't, we knew that was not true. Now it's just exacerbated by Gen AI, because these hallucinations and these deep fakes are available readily across all channels, and we have to just be judicious in use. And I mean, we don't want to open ourselves and our organizations up to any kind of unnecessary risk by irresponsible use of the tool.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's also guardrails. There's a lot to incorporate in those scenarios. I think again the main thing is making sure you have a critical eye. And on the topic of going back to the topic of jobs, it's really just learn things. To conclude the discussion we started from, which is what do we do with juniors? One of the conclusions we made in a discussion a few weeks ago is that we might see the industry, at least the IT industry, go back to classically trained people. Like right now, you have a lot of people will self-learn. They're great at what they do, but to make sure you're truly able to take advantage of large of LLMs and in general tools like GPT and whatever, you probably need a bit of technical of classical training, like college degree or professional school, whatever, just so you know what the finished product will look like. Again, if you couldn't make it, don't do it.
Yeah, that's a really good. I'm going to use that. I hope you don't mind, because I love that.
No,
It's a
my
really,
wife will love it.
yeah, I think it's a really good way to differentiate. It's like, okay, am I using this responsibly or not? Well, if I couldn't do this, come up with this on my own, that's a problem, right? If you
Given
can't come
a
up with it on
month,
your
I
own,
don't
you can't
know.
validate it.
Yeah, give yourself time. Like, could I do this in 2 weeks? And by Googling and trial and error and whatnot, that's a good metric. Like, I'm not a front end person, but I did build a small React component using V0, which not that is coding LLMs that's around there. I could have done it. It just was taking me 2 weeks to do the same thing, which was a calling interface for an agent in a call center for a demo. But I could have done it. I know what I needed. I just didn't know what this method does, what the name of the function is, what the name of the variable is, and that's the shortcut I took. But I could have done it. That's a extremely good metric in my opinion.
You know, you got my gears spinning. Now I'm thinking, now here's another way to explain that to people. Can you build a piece of furniture with all hand tools? Of course you can, you know, but why use chisel and hammer when you actually have access to real tools, to power tools? So that's the same thing. Yes, you know what you're doing. You know the desired output, what it's supposed to look like. The point is, how do you get there? And that's really, to me, that's what how AI can fit. I need to work on that analogy, but it kind of, when you were just talking about this, it kind of made it crystal clear in my brain. I could do it with or without power tools, but the power tools certainly make it more efficient.
Definitely, yeah. I think the power tools, yeah, it's another analogy. It is plus to some point it gets even further. I have a friend was a very good metal worker, and he has this shop. He has 7 people working there, like it's a company, and they have all this super advanced machinery that they can use to build you a frame for a table in probably half an hour. Paradoxically, I will be able to build similar frame, and I will have to use all hand tools, like just cutting the iron by myself, then soldering one by one. I couldn't even figure out how the machine works that takes a piece of sheet iron and spits out a table. Like, how does it ever? How do I program that? So, to a degree, understanding how it works, it's a stepping stone. And if you don't understand the tool, you're better off not using it because you don't know how to tell if it's good. As we said, you don't know how to tell if it's AI, you don't know if it's right, if it's copyrighted, all of it. So it's still something that, and I think the industry finally caught up on that. I think we're sort of past the craze. Feels like.
I'm with you. Now I'm with you. It's, yeah, the novelty is wearing off. Now let's look at reality. How can we actually use this? And it's no longer just the shiny object. One thing I mentioned, the one company I worked with, and we worked on a strategy, like a global strategy, go-to-market strategy on who we should be targeting and messaging to them. Ultimately, though, so we use a couple of different tools. You know, we use GPT, we use Perplexity, but ultimately we had SMEs, subject matter experts, on the team to be able to validate or refute what was being generated. So we really could not, even though it accelerated our work, it didn't replace the importance of the human experience and advisory.
Yeah, you can study, learn, and there's a lot you can. I like, as a hobby, sort of an hobby, trading stocks, but I'm mainly being an index person because it's too. I perceive it as dangerous jumping in something I don't know. So one thing people seem to be doing is use AI for trading. No, please don't. Could you trade manually? Yes. Then use all the tools that you have. Are you like me and you realize you're better off just buying ETFs? Keep buying the ETFs, please. That
Yeah.
applies to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a really fun time right now. And let's embrace it. Let's not put our head in the sand. Let's figure out how to use the tools that are at our disposal to help us get our job done more efficiently. And quite frankly, these tools definitely help make us look good. But if we do use them blindly, we run the risk of making us look incompetent.
Well, I mean, thank you, Greg. It's always great to talk with an expert. It's always great to talk with you. And I think there's a lot. So, do you have any conferences coming up or events?
Um, so I'm pretty involved with CompTIA. I don't know if you all know CompTIA or not. It's on the IT side. So that one is coming up in Nashville in, I want to, no, actually that's not until summertime. Then there's also another, a leadership in March. But other than that, they're just coming, IT Expo is coming up in February in Orlando, I believe. That's one I may be attending. I'm not sure. It's really fluid, which I love the fact that right now, it used to be, Luca, back in I'm just going back 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
We had our set conferences, and that's when we went, when everybody got together, everybody spent a ton of money, and then you went back and you followed up on the conference if you're doing your job well. These days, it's such a fluid, and there are many more regional conferences. There are association conferences. So right now there are so many, it's almost like there's so many to choose from, but it's not like this is the event to be at. This is the event to be at. It's you've got to exercise some judgment as to where you're going to be spending your time and your money. And I've been much more fluid. I've done a ton of these, like this. Sessions like this have been as effective for me as going cross country and setting up a booth. But the really fun one I just got back from London, doing a partnership, managing the technology channel boot camp for CompTIA. And that was, I mean, not much to complain about that. That was a ton of fun. So those go on ongoing as well. So I'll be doing those, as needed, pretty regularly. Other than that, we'll see. I love the fact that we're in a day where you don't have to hop a plane to connect with somebody and really build some effective business. But that is about it. I will tell you this right here. So I wanted to get a plug in from my local group, Tech Forum. Tech Forum is our local tech forum of Delaware. We've been around for 20 years. I chair the group. Wonderful group of tech enthusiasts. Again, not experts, but enthusiasts. And this will be our third year. We've had 2 years of an event called AI in DE, AI in Delaware. And we looked at different companies, small, medium, large, university, government, how they're actually deploying AI today. And it's been fascinating just to see in that short period of time where GPT hit, how companies are leveraging the technology across the board, nonprofit, to the largest of enterprises. We actually had the CISO for DuPont on our panel this past event. And anyhow, it's definitely a fun time, and I'm embracing it and enjoying the ride.
That's great. Yeah. Go check it out. And well, if I'm ever in Delaware, I'll come say hello.
If you're ever in Delaware, we'll go out, we'll grab a beer, we'll grab a coffee. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, thank you very much. Brad from Partnernomics joined us today. We went over AI, why it's not taking your job. I agree with that. Still be prepared, start learn what it can do, which is more important. And well, thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Luca. It's good to be here as always.
And for the rest of the people, I'll see you next week. Goodbye.